Guyanese attorney Sir Lionel Alfred Luku. In addition to a prolific political career, he also ran the top law firm in Georgetown, racking up 245 successive murder acquittals between the years of 1940 to 1985. In a few cases, his clients were found guilty but were acquitted in the appeals process. And even though he passed away in 1997, Sir Lionel still holds the record of who is the most successful trial lawyer in the world.
That's the
According to
background
the
on
Guinness Book of
Lionel.
World Records, that honor
Still holds the record for the most successful trials.
The greatest lawyer in the world. He was in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most successful defense attorney who ever lived. His name was Sir Lionel Luku. He won 247 murder trials in a row as a defense attorney. Greatest lawyer ever lived. He was skeptic like I was about the resurrection. He thought, Jesus didn't return from the dead. He says, give me a break. And someone challenged him. Sir Lionel, you're the greatest lawyer. Have you ever taken your monumental legal skill and applied it to the historical record and come to an informed conclusion about whether or not Jesus did return from the dead? He said, no, I haven't, but I will. He spent years investigating the evidence, and I'll recite to you one sentence he wrote that summarized his conclusion. He says, I say unequivocally that the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ is so overwhelming that it compels acceptance by proof, which leaves absolutely no room for doubt. The greatest lawyer in the world. He was in the Guinness Book.
This is what a man who is smarter than me, smarter than you, considered the most successful lawyer to ever exist. His job was to prove or disprove something. And he could not disprove the resurrection after doing research for almost 10 years. Almost 10 years, he could not disprove it. And we live in 2025 years after the birth of Jesus, and no one still cannot disprove the resurrection. So people who are rejecting this, just look at that. Go try to disprove. Start with trying to disprove the resurrection first. And when you cannot, go look and see who Jesus was. Go look and see who Jesus is. Go look and see who Jesus will be. And you will see what we're talking about.
And I think that people don't find value within themselves because, like we said earlier, they're comparing themselves to Jesus, right? But as you look up the resurrection, as you look up who Jesus is, look up your role in the role that you'll play. Understand how valuable you are to Jesus and to the overall plan when it comes down to the new earth and work and what we are designed to do. All of this is not purposeless. And that's another reason people reject. People don't find purpose within themselves, purpose within their lives, and purpose or a love, an abundant love, a unconditional love. They don't believe that ever exists, but it does. It does. And when you tap into it and when you get even the most minor taste of it, it's just almost addictive, right? It's addictive to be able to not experience a group or religion or a practice, but to experience a love that is not only peaceful, but is comforting, and that is always with you, even when you're lonely, even when you are sad or depressed or overwhelmed. That love is what others are sharing when they're speaking about Jesus. It's not just about a practice or religion, or I want to disprove you. I want to debate you. I want to be the most knowledgeable, the most this. And I can speak for myself when I speak about Jesus. It's just because I want whoever I'm speaking to, anybody watching right now, to understand the love. Yes, it comes with a lot. Yes, it comes with correction, and it comes with conviction, and it comes with you being able to be an example for others, because a lot of times people find that Christians are disingenuous and they don't walk the path, right? But even with those things, it's so worth it. Even with those things, because I'm not a person, and shout out to anybody who is, but I'm not a person who's always believed. I'm not a person who's, even if I was raised in church, I went on my own path and I went my own way. I wasn't always so confident, and I had so many questions and I had so much doubt, but looking at me today, Like me using myself as my testimony, looking at myself and being able to say, look how far I've come. Look at me in such a confused state, in such a liberation, not liberal, but I'm liberating in everything, in sex, in alcohol, in money, in whatever. Like that was me. I'm a woman. I hear my roar. That was me. And to be able to switch those perspectives, to gain a knowledge and a value of myself that's allowed me to not only change my mindset but change my actions, because conviction and correction is love for the prevention of your demise, not God's, not Jesus's. It absolutely, it's spiritual maturity. That's exactly what it is. But to be spiritually mature requires something. And that something is Jesus. Everybody gets up and accepts an award and does this and says, without God, I wouldn't be here. But yes, it's God, but God has a name. And he stamped it for you to be able to connect to him. Jesus Christ is the way. Through him, you will meet the Father. And so, with that being said, you have to really ask yourself, like Malik was saying earlier in the stream, what is the gamble that you're willing to do? What's the risk? What risk are you willing to take? Because if I'm wrong, nothing happens. If I'm wrong, it's just black. And I just was like living a life where I was what they say, in psychosis. Okay, cool. Cool. I'm willing to take that gamble. But if you're wrong and I'm not, you have everything to lose.
Yep.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. And again, we have to understand the flow of grace, right? We have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I don't think people really understand what this means, and why we have a lot of skeptics is because they're thinking, how could there be one God but three beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think of it this way. I'll put it in reality terms for you guys to understand, right? The United States of America, right, has one government. It's the same government. The United States of America has one government, right, which is the U.S. government. But you have three different branches that operate under the United States government, right? But does that mean because there are three branches that there are three separate governments?
No.
It does not. It does not mean because there's three branches, that means it's three separate governments. No, it means there's one government, three branches.
That's
Stop
right.
overthinking it. You're overthinking it because you can't comprehend something that's divine. And that's how you know. This is one of the first reasons, honestly, when I was a skeptic, this is one of the first things that made me realize this is God, because it didn't make sense. When it makes too much sense at the time, it's like, this makes too much sense. Nope, that can't be God, right? All those other religions that make you feel good, that make it sound good, right? That's how I knew those things were false, because it was too easy. It was too easy to get into it. When I get into the Trinity and when I get into God and the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and it's confusing, I clicked in my mind and said, that has to be God. And the reason I know that's God is because God gives us sprinkles for us to understand enough to follow him and believe him, but not enough to think that we understand him. He understands us. It's not for us to completely understand him. This is how I knew that the Trinity and God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit were true, because it doesn't make sense. If you just think about it, you're like, three persons, one being, that makes zero sense. Exactly. It doesn't make sense, because God is not God. God is not bound by time and space like me and you are. We as humans, we are what is considered divisible, right? You remember, you know, when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, you say indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Do you know why you say indivisible? Because God is indivisible, and we don't understand what this means. Humans are divisible, right? We are temporal. We have a temporary time. God is indivisible because he's eternal. He's not bounded by time and space. So because he's not bounded by time and space, he can sit in heaven, he can sit on the earth, and he can sit in the spirit all at the same time, because he's indivisible, he's eternal. So because of this, he can be in multiple spaces at once. Versus we look at it from a human perspective and like, well, we couldn't do that, duh, because you're divisible, you're not indivisible. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That's really interesting. You did a really good job of explaining that, because I couldn't have put it better myself, like in the way that you explained the Trinity, because and that's what I was mentioning earlier, that line of knowledge, like God draws a line in the sand, basically. Like, you can understand all this, and this is, like you said, the breadcrumbs that I'm leaving behind for you to follow me. But the complexity is necessary for you to actually continue to seek me.
Exactly.
But then there's a line at those breadcrumbs, like, okay, and then this is me. You know what I'm saying? This is where I'm at. And this is what I control and where I reign. And that's not necessary for you. You know what I'm saying? It's just not necessary. And when you were, I think, what were you saying prior to that? You were talking about the Trinity and how you figured out that this is God, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of the same way I figured it out, that it's God, is because there's no way that somebody could have made this up.
Exactly.
I started at that point.
No one can make up the Trinity. Like,
no,
I
I
don't care
started
how
to
smart
the
you
point
think you are.
where, hold on, these things, like, it's like Old Testament, and then there's prophecy, and then there's fulfillment, and then there's this, and then there's the correlation to what's happening today, and the correlation to what's happened in history, and how all those things line up, and how it covers everything. There's nothing new under the sun. These type of things started to make me be like, oh, this is a little crazy. Like, it's true. It has to be true. You
know what else? You know what else is in the Bible that we live off of? And
like, learn something new.
This is how I learned that God is everywhere. Even for the people that don't believe, he's still a part of their lives. How do we know this? How many days of the week do we have?
7.
Why?
It's the number of completion.
We have 7 days of the week because God created the earth in 6 days and he rested on the 7th day. That gives us a week. Right? No human came up with this. No human came up with, they just decided this is going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? You named it. You named it, right? You named it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But it's a essence of 6 days to create the heavens, the earth, the animals, the beasts, the birds, and the humans. And then the 7th day, you rest. This is why we find in a lot of cultures, you either are resting on Saturday or you're resting on Sunday, because this is your Sabbath time. This is your Sabbath time. You're resting on this day. We didn't make this up. Before we had days of the weeks and months and all this stuff, this was already put in place for us. So it's all there. There's even things like when we want to talk about rejecting Jesus, rejecting God, we have to understand that literally everything is in the Bible. I'm going to tell you guys something that a lot of people probably don't even know. And it's something that I learned that I want to share with you guys because I thought it was very interesting. And I want you guys to look at it. Don't look into it. Don't take my word for it. Actually go look at this for yourselves. Did you guys know that there's actually evidence of dinosaurs in the Bible? Did you guys know that? I'm not making this up. There's evidence in the Bible of dinosaurs.
I came at the right time. I'm excited to hear about this. I like
Seriously,
this.
Go look in the book. Go look at the book of Job, where God says, in the book of Job, God says, I created the behemoth next to you, Job. The behemoth was next to Job, and the behemoth is described as an animal with a tail that is built like a cedar tree. It says that its tail sways like a cedar tree. What animal can you think of that's alive to this day that has a tail that's big enough to be the size of a tree? The elephant doesn't have a tail the size of a tree. A lion doesn't have a tail the size of a tree. There's no animal that we can see that's alive today that has the tail that sways like a cedar tree. You have to understand, put in perspective the size of an actual cedar tree, because a cedar is a very particular type of tree. A cedar tree is huge, right?
Mhm.
It's not just like a regular pine tree. It's not a small tree. The tree trunk of a cedar tree is large.
Mhm.
And for an animal to just have a tail the size of a cedar tree, the body of this animal has to be even bigger. Think about that. And
And he
the
said the
animal,
bones are like tubes of brass or bronze.
exactly. And it says the bones are like tubes of brass, iron brass. And so think about an animal that has to be big enough that its tail is the size of a cedar. And then you have the Leviathan. You have the Leviathan also. The Leviathan is what you would kind of describe as like a dragon.
Sea monster.
Like a dragon, yeah. I'm telling you, go look into this. Go
Yeah.
look at the Leviathan in the Bible. Go look at the behemoth in the Bible, and look at the descriptions of these animals. And you can even find evidence of people that lived centuries and centuries and centuries ago, right? Centuries ago, and they have carvings on their tombstones of animals that are shaped like dinosaurs. There's no possible way that they would be able to understand what a dinosaur would look like if they didn't discover dinosaur bones. Only way that they will know what a dinosaur would look like without discovering their fossils is if they saw it.
Mhm.
So how would they have known and carved it onto their tombs without seeing it? Because back then people didn't discover actual fossils until the 1800s. People started discovering fossils of dinosaurs in the early 1800s. So if you're talking about the book of Job, you're talking about the Old Testament. This is way before Jesus. So this is way before the 1800s. So if
Mhm.
they had these carvings on their tombs of these animals that had big long tails and long necks, like we described dinosaurs, right? They had to have seen this. And also how you know that they lied to us about dinosaurs passing away with the meteor, right? It's because if the dinosaurs passed away from the meteor and before humans, then you are telling me that there was death before the fall. And this is not true. There was no death before the fall. And you're telling me that dinosaurs existed before humans and they died and they perished. This is false. They lied to us. Dinosaurs existed with humans pre-fall and after the fall. And this is we had death after the fall. So dinosaurs could not have died before the fall because there was no death before the fall. And God says he created the animals, the beast, and the humans on the sixth day. So who are the beasts?
Hmm. And also, there's so many contexts to this. That's why I love this. It's so interesting because what was something that could have created fossils, moved a lot of sediment around, and been able to bring something to extinction? I wonder what that could be. Maybe a flood.
Exactly.
Maybe a flood
Not a
somewhere.
meteor, not a meteor, a,
Hmm.
a great flood.
I wonder what that is.
Because you know what it takes to even make fossils. It takes minerals, certain types of minerals, and certain types of things to mix in order for fossils to be even made, right?
Mhm.
So a fire could not cause fires could not cause fossils to be made. It would disintegrate the fossils, right? You have to have mixing of materials, mixing of water in order for fossils to actually sink down without perishing. And what
Mhm.
is the only thing that could sink and preserve something without dissolving it? The great flood, which is described in the Bible.
And if y'all go look at fossils and when they reconstructed the fossils and how those skeletons, the posture of those skeletons, it's actually called apostitonic posture. oppositonic. It's a weird word, but
Yeah,
it's called
oppositonic,
oppositonic posture, and that is the posture of drowning.
yeah. If you
It's
see, if when they find a lot of the dinosaurs, a lot of the dinosaur fossils, they're
they're in
basically
that like yeah
they're bent
yeah
back like this. They're kind
hmm
of bent back like this, which is a sign that they drowned and they died in water because they're trying to pull
exactly
themselves up. So they
exactly.
died like this. So this is how you know also that they died in water.
And also, a lot of people was like, well, a dinosaur could it's so big, a dinosaur couldn't be on the ark. Well, if you've seen dinosaur eggs, they're not that big. Not
Exactly.
everything that went on the ark was fully. If God said that these animals were supposed to multiply, right? They were supposed
Exactly.
to
Because he was
create
only supposed to take two.
two,
Two of
right?
each animal. Yeah.
Exactly. They're going to be young. They're not going to have the
Exactly.
old ones trying to multiply. They're going to make
Exactly.
the young ones multiply. So you have to really start to understand the lies and deception to disprove the existence of God, because these seeds are planted in us early.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling kids that there was death before the fall. There was it's corruption, and it plants these seeds even though it seems innocent. It seems innocent to tell somebody, well, 50 million years ago, dinosaurs became extinct, and it's like kids repeat that, but it's like if you start to cross-examine that in their minds, it's already seeds of deception because it doesn't correlate to the word. It would make the
Exactly.
word false.
And you know what else? You know what else? You guys can research this again. Don't take my word for it. Research this. Did you guys know that they actually found evidence of a T-Rex tissue? Do you know what that means? That they found evidence that they have T-Rex tissue that had red blood cells on it.
Mm-hmm.
This would be impossible to find tissue that had red blood cells on it if it was from 20 million years ago, 50 million years ago, like they said the dinosaurs existed then. The
Mm-hmm.
only way that you would have tissue with red blood cells on it from a T-Rex is if the earth is younger than what they have told us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the only way, which would mean that humans existed with dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you what I've read in the Bible and what I've researched. I
And
didn't go research. I didn't go research it. Sorry, I didn't go research this. Because it wasn't in the Bible. I saw this in the Bible first, and then I researched it. So
right,
the Bible is my authority.
of
So
course.
if the Bible tells me this, I have to believe it, and then I back it up with more research. This is what I do. The Bible tells me something, and God confirms it to me by researching it, and I can prove it.
Mm-hmm.
This is how amazing the Bible is. The Bible tells you something, and you're like, that seems skeptical. Go research it, and I promise you won't be able to disprove it because it's in the Bible, and the Bible is true because the Bible is God-breathed. God has breathed his breath into the Bible.
Mm-hmm. And also, everybody's like, oh, it doesn't say dinosaur. Yeah. And Malik told me it don't say iPhone, it don't say computer, it don't say this, it don't say that. But you see that, don't you? Things
Exactly.
have different names, but if you understand the context
Descriptions.
and descriptions of things, then you can correlate using your knowledge. Because just because something has changed based on humans, it doesn't mean that the Bible's not true. It means that
Exactly.
humans have changed it. Humans change everything. We can't keep our hands off stuff. You know what I'm saying? But
Well, also a big reason that it changes is because it has to change with the way that people communicate, right? So if you were to go research, let's say for example, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? The Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew's real Aramaic name was not Matthew. You would have to if you actually looked up his real name, you couldn't even say it because you're American. Right. So they translated it so that way we can comprehend what the Bible is still telling us. Right. Because Matthew's real name, I can't even say it. It was like Matuba,
yeah.
Matubia. It's very hard to pronounce. But Matthew's real name, the Gospel of Matthew, his real name is very hard to pronounce because it was a Aramaic / Hebrew name. But his real name was not Matthew. It was translated to Matthew because as the times change, languages change. So it doesn't mean that the Bible is not true just because his name was Matthew. Like, how is it someone named Matthew lived in the time of Jesus? Well, his name wasn't Matthew at the time when he was alive, right?
It's for
Just
comprehension.
like Jesus, Jesus for us, we call him Jesus, right? But at the time he was alive, his name he would be called Yahshua,
Mhm.
right? Yahshua. That was his name. If you were to say Yahshua, he would know you're talking to him. But God knows all languages. So if you call him Jesus and you know that he's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, he still knows you're talking to him.
Right.
So just because the language changed doesn't mean that the message changes.
And also, something interesting is that Jesus spoke Aramaic, and it's one of the lost languages of now. It's such a low percentage of people that speak that language.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even then, the way he was communicating is not anything we would understand today.
Exactly.
So, it's necessary. These things, just like Mary is Marian. Exactly. Everything can be switched and changed, but we understand context, especially as believers. You use your wisdom and your intelligence, which is why we're granted it. You use your wisdom and intelligence to be able to correlate things to make sense to you, because God says you ask and you seek and you'll find. And so as we're seeking, he even made it to where the evolution of the world allows us to be able to consume information almost effortlessly. Because if we were having to sit here trying to translate Aramaic and Hebrew and all these things, I don't need Greek and all that. Just tell me the essential message. Allow me to understand what God is commanding of me and let me live my life in that.
Yep.
Y'all want to
Exactly.
start translating and doing this and doing that, which I don't see as a bad thing, but I'm just telling you, it's not very necessary.
Yeah, like I said, one of the people that I've learned from, what I've learned is he said that a lot of Christians try to be so intellectual, right? They think Christianity means intelligence. Christianity means I have to be the smartest, right? But that actually starts to steer you away to become a skeptic, because you start over analyzing everything. So being a Christian is not about your intelligence. Being a Christian is about your obedience. You could literally have no knowledge, of certain things, but if you are obedient, it doesn't matter. So obedience is more important than how smart you are about this or how much you know about this. Are these good things to have? Yes, but it's not your end all be all, because what if you know all these things and you're not obedient? What if you know everything there is to know about the Bible and you're not obedient? There's a lot of scholars who are atheists, right? Who went to school for theology, and they're atheists, and they could recite the Bible so well that they could tell you reference points. Oh, this is in Romans, this is in that, off of the top of their head, because they're so intellectual when it comes to the Bible, but they don't believe in, they have no obedience to the actual Bible. So just because you're you have intellect in the Bible does not mean you're obedient. So don't ever feel discouraged just because you may not have the answers for everything, right? As long as you're obedient, that comes before anything. That comes before anything.
Absolutely. Obedience and everything else follows. We
Yep.
sometimes try to lead with our own steps, but everything that you are destined to do, everything that you are supposed to do is following obedience.
Exactly.
All right. I think we touched it, Malik. We hit those points, and I think that we had a good conversation tonight. What y'all
Yeah,
think?
yeah. I want you guys to go look into what we were talking about. Do your own research. Like I said, dinosaurs was here with us. No matter what translation you look at, the resurrection is still mean the resurrection. No matter if it's Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, English, Japanese, Chinese, it does not matter. The resurrection is still the resurrection. And the resurrection is the most important thing that we have as Christians, which is why people are so afraid of Jesus, because of his resurrection. So don't let anyone try to tell you that his resurrection was not true. Thank you guys.
Also, Satan was with God in him. He knows exactly.
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 Exactly. You have to be more equipped than people who are trying to actively disprove you. And I don't think
Exactly.
Christians take that into consideration enough. You
Mhm.
have to equip yourself. It's like this. Like if I live in a country where people are able to have weapons and are training for, I don't know what they training for. You better be able to protect yourself. You better
Yeah.
have knowledge of what it means to protect yourself, you know?
Mhm.
We appreciate y'all. We gonna get off here. We're gonna get us a little thumbnail. Go ahead. Let me hide Kiki's comment. What you gonna do? You gonna just smile? Huh?
What?
We're doing the thumbnail.
Oh, my bad.
Stop.
I'm just like,
You gotta look at the camera.
all right.
Is that good, y'all?
See y'all guys. See y'all next time.
Okay. Appreciate y'all. See y'all tomorrow. We here all week. Bye. Good night.